everyone, I just want to review how to do some of the constructions for the special segments we learned about. We'll do the perpendicular bisector, median, angle bisector, and altitude. All right, so starting off with the perpendicular bisector, the perpendicular bisector divides a side into two congruent parts and forms a right angle. Okay, so in this example, I'm going to draw the perpendicular bisector of side AC. Okay, so to do that, you're going to first open your compass a little more than halfway. Okay. Then you're going to draw an arc from each end point of that segment. So I'll start out by doing an arc from A and then I'll do an arc from C. Okay. And then we see that there's two spots where those arcs intersect each other. We're just going to use those to guide our line. Okay. And that's my perpendicular bisector. In order to indicate that that's a perpendicular bisector, it's perpendicular, so that means that it forms a right angle, so include that in there. And then that bisector divides side AC into two congruent parts. So make sure you put the tick marks to label these parts congruent. Okay? Which means that it connects at the midpoint of this side. If I were to draw all three perpendicular bisectors of the triangle, that point of concurrency where they meet would be called the circumcenter. And remember that the circumcenter is equidistant from the vertices of the triangle. All right, moving on. Let's take a look at the median. A median joins the vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. So if I'm drawing a median from vertex B, it's going to go from B to the midpoint of AC. Here's how you do it. So you first do the exact same thing as you would for a perpendicular bisector. You draw an arc from both A and C. Okay. And then I'm just going to draw a dotted line through here. This is the perpendicular bisector. And the point of doing that is that that goes through the midpoint of AC. A median joins a vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. So we said that we're doing the median from vertex B. Go ahead and join B to the midpoint that we just found of that opposite side. And that would be your median. Since this is the midpoint of AC, make sure that you draw your tick marks to mark these segments congruent. All right? So moving on now. Oh, can't forget the point of concurrency. If I were to draw three medians from each vertex of my triangle, they would meet at this center of gravity, which is called the centroid. Now, moving on. So an angle bisector divides an angle into two congruent parts. So in this example, I'm going to do the angle bisector of angle C, of angle ACB. Okay? So in order to do that, here are the steps. I'm going to put the point of my compass on the vertex of the angle you're going to bisect, and then draw an arc. That's step one. You see how that arc intersected the sides of the triangle at two spots, here and here? You can draw them in if you want. Okay? You're going to use those spots to put the point of your compass, and you're going to draw arcs from those spots. You could draw big arcs. You only really need this little spot here, so that's what I'm doing. Do it from this point where it intersected and this point where it intersected. See how the two arcs meet at this single point over here? Okay, that is what we're going to connect to C. And now that angle is bisected. If it's bisected, that means it forms two congruent angles, so make sure to mark those. Okay? If I were to draw an angle bisector of each of these angles in a triangle, they would all meet at the incenter. Now just a note, the incenter is equidistant from the sides of the triangle. Okay? And lastly, let's quick talk about the altitude. So an altitude is another name for the height of the triangle. An altitude connects a vertex at a 90 degree angle to the opposite side. And I say extension of the opposite side because if it was an obtuse triangle, the altitude would be like outside of the triangle. But you can see that when you do examples. So in order to construct an altitude, I want to do the altitude from B that forms a 90 degree angle with AC. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is just kind of extend my side AC, and that's just in case that the next arc I draw intersects that line. We'll see. Okay, so the step to draw an altitude, extend that opposite side, and then you're going to open your compass and put the point on that vertex that you're drawing the altitude from. Okay. And then you're going to draw an arc right from that vertex. Okay. Now there are two spots where my arc intersects that bottom side. I guess for mine I didn't really need to extend that opposite side, but if somebody opened their compass wider, it would have intersected like out here, which is why it's just helpful to extend your side if needed. So now I'm drawing an arc from each of these spots where the arc I just drew intersected that opposite side. So I'm putting the point of my compass at each of those and drawing an arc. Mine happens to be pretty big. You don't need to do yours that big. Okay. Mine crossed away at the bottom of the paper. Maybe do yours a little bit smaller, but that's all right. All right, and those points where those arcs intersect each other is going to guide where we draw that altitude, and it extends from that vertex down to that opposite side and forms a 90 degree angle. And the length of that altitude is going to be the height of your triangle. If I were to draw all three altitudes, that point of concurrency would be the orthocenter, which is where they all meet, where they all intersect. All right, hopefully that was helpful. Feel free to see us if you have any questions. Have a great day.